Awesome. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I'm here with our host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutritional supplementation, and lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, as well as virtually all around the world on Zoom, just like this. So he's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level. He works with athletes and celebrities all around the world, and tonight is here to answer your questions. So we already got a bunch of good ones sent in.
Yeah. So again, which is awesome. Love it. Keep sending the questions. And again, so while we're here tonight, we have some, and then if you guys have questions, we're always willing to tackle as many as we can. So if you are with us on Facebook, welcome aboard. Of course, just throw it in the comments. Somehow those get over to Karen, and Karen sends them to me. And then if you're here in Zoom, welcome once again. Love having you guys, of course. Then just put it in the chats. And then same thing. You ask them, we'll answer them the best that we can.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. All right. Should we dive into our first question then?
Yeah, let's see what we got.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's kick off with this one that got emailed into us. So hello, and thank you so much for what you do. I learn so much each week. We love that. So my sister-in-law is mid-40s, has suffered from Lyme disease for several years. Some things she suffers from are joint pain, extremely swollen knee joints, and extreme fatigue. She's looking into stem cell therapy, but it's so expensive. What is Dr. Bart's thoughts on that kind of treatment, and what supplements can help with the long-term effects from the Lyme disease? Thank you, and look forward to tomorrow's show.
Well, thank you for listening each week. I love it. Thanks for being here. And this is a great question. There's a lot of people out there being affected by Lyme disease, and it has such a broad range of symptoms and impacts that can have in our lives. So there's a lot here. So let me go through the bigger part of that question. Is, do I think that stem cell therapy is something that I would suggest as a modality for Lyme disease? And as of right now, it would not be on the top of my list. As you mentioned, very expensive. And the stem cell therapy, but listen, I would not rule it out. Like if there was an unlimited pocketbook or credit card, and sometimes you don't even need an unlimited credit card as much as you might be just completely out of answers, and you need to take the next step. So stem cell therapy is new cell regeneration. So phenomenal. In a scenario like this, it wouldn't be just an isolated joint though. We're not talking about just doing a shoulder or a knee. We're talking about full body stuff, and it get very, very expensive. And even in that, the things I'm going to mention next would be the precursors to it. I love stem cell therapy. I think the future, there's a lot of future in stem cell therapy, and yet there's some limitations. I don't think that people have really, even the doctors, I don't think they've really grasped to the idea that a clean body will accept the new stem cells better and regenerate better versus someone who just goes on with everyday living. So getting the body clean and healthy prior to any stem cells is very important. So back to Lyme. And thanks. With Lyme, there's a couple things. One, no doubt about it, things like turmeric. A steady, strong dose of turmeric, we use the one called Turmeric Forte, will be one of the best modulators of the inflammatory process. Everything from the gut on through to the joints, et cetera, even for the brain function at this point. One of the challenges with, say a prolonged Lyme is muscle deficiency. Literally the tissue breaks down and we become weaker, and then we have massive amounts of joint pain. So a clean diet, absolutely imperative here. And listen, this is not easy. So everyone out there, sometimes it sounds so easy to give a protocol and be like, oh yeah, they're so bad. Why don't they just do this? Why don't do that? When you're feeling bad, it's the hardest to do good. So I really, really get it. So if that is your sister, and I love the fact that you're reaching out and, and trying to, find ways and paths for her, there are a couple of things I would do. If you haven't talked to her about doing the Stealth Pathogen Protocol that we've talked about on the show here often, that would definitely be on the list. We got to go in and clean the body out. Lyme is not the only thing she has at this point. She definitely has parasites because it sets a stage for so many other dysfunctional stuff. And then everything we've talked about, on this show about clean living, organic food, incorporating some intermittent fasting, but properly, there's going to need to be almost like a very strategic schedule where there's feedback going back and forth. Anything to help the body digest and assimilate food better. That's what you want to think. So clean living, digestive enzymes, Zypan is a great one. It's real simple as this sounds, but getting her body to digest better first may be one of the four most important things to do. I'm assuming that, let's just say that she's not doing everything perfect, but getting that digestion down first so she can start to, kind of like build back her body. So I don't know if I answered all the questions. Don't know the stem cell would be my first option. I would definitely incorporate the Stealth Pathogen Protocol. I would work on gut health, essentially digestion first. And when it comes to supplementation, all of them, any of them. But I would start with anything that helps with the gut, and really whole food nutrition is going to be really, really important here. So hopefully that is a good starting point. And inevitably, and she probably already has done this, but inevitably, find someone that has some experience. You're going to need to be in the functional medicine world. And there's a lot of practitioners like myself who one way or another become more and more experienced with this protocol, in the strategies here of not only, fighting the Lyme disease, but recuperating and getting the body to work better as well. So reach out if you haven't already to someone that's in that world. And then I'd go from there.
And if somebody does want to go through the stealth pathogen path of the protocol, reach out to your office?
Yeah.
How do they do?
Real simple, Karen. They can absolutely reach out to the office. The biggest, like the challenge with the stealth pathogen protocol, remember that's the one that's going to help us with Epstein-Barr, with parasites, with helminths, a little bit of everything. The biggest, and there's 4 separate herbs we use in there. The biggest challenge is that we do a technique that's called pulse dosing, where we really have to confuse, we have to interfere with, and really kind of like beat up the different viruses that are within the body. So we do 4 days on, 10 days off. Well, we actually switch them. There's no 10 days off. It's 4 days, then 10 days, 4 days and 10 days. So when you call the office, they will also, my team is awesome. They will send you a calendar. So you don't think about it. You go 4 days, I'm going to take these 2 bottles. 10 days, I'm going to take these 2 bottles. That's the hardest part of it. Just keeping track of it. And it's a 90-day protocol. So this is steady Freddy, kill it as you go. And it's a phenomenal protocol. And this it is one I do recommend, like literally every one of us. You don't need to have Lyme or Epstein-Barr. You'd be better off if you just do this once a year.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. Next question here is a question on Roundup and glyphosate. It is said that if a vegetable or fruit has a hard skin that is not eaten, then you don't have to buy organic. But wouldn't the Roundup be absorbed by the plant on the inside, either from the ground or through the skin?
Yes. So listen, there's no getting around not buying organic. I know there's like some deviations and they got the dirty dozen and stuff like that. Yet there's 2 reasons we eat organic. One, we avoid toxins. And just like you said, from the soil coming up on in, and then also what's being sprayed on it. And so whoever's asking this question, you're like, this is how we got to think. As we level ourselves up, we got to think, we got to ask questions. We got to be like, well, that doesn't make sense. You put that Roundup, you spray it on the vegetables, but it also goes on the soil, and then the plants basically suck the nutrients out of the soil. So isn't it sucking up the chemicals? The answer is yes. And you're absolutely right. So hard skin, soft skin, yes, some are more porous, absolutely. And they're going to be more vulnerable for the outside in stuff. But the other part of the reason that we eat organic is because of nutrient deficiencies. So when you have organic soil that's not processed with the chemicals, you literally have more nutrients in the soil. And ultimately, to be superhuman, we need massive amounts of dense nutrients. So, and I think the last time I looked, and every year we're getting a little bit more data on this, like broccoli, for example, 1950 to now has less than 1/3 the nutrients it used to.
Oh, sad, isn't it?
we're not necessarily, if we're staying in line with just buying, like saying, oh, well, this one doesn't have as much chemicals. That's only one part of it. But the superhuman strategies mean we need super, foods to come into these superhuman bodies.
Yeah, I love that. I also think the more we can like communicate what we would like with our dollars, like if we buy organic more, there's going to be like more organic produce coming in, more organic farmers, potentially it even gets cheaper. Like the more we're like communicating out to people that this is what we want by buying it, I think helps as well.
Yeah, right on, Karen. Listen, the money, where we put our money matters. It really, really does. I'm proud of like the bigger grocery chain stores down here. Waiting for the restaurants to catch up, but the grocery stores down here, we have an awesome selection of organic, and we have like a big chain down here is called Publix. There's as well, but Publix is, if there's any people here watching from Publix tonight, they're doing an amazing job, and it's simply because we as consumers are asking for it. So they're doing a great job. And, I've talked to the managers a couple of times, and they say the largest section of their entire business is their organic part. So
yeah, that's amazing. And then they get more in, and then there's more available, and then more people think about other ways to like get, to actually produce organic food. And it just, the more you can spend your money in it, the more that whole industry does better.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the managers told me to stop telling people about celery juice because.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like, hey, like we're running out, like buying it in, like the big packs and everything. I'm like, good, it's working. It's working.
I love that. That's so awesome. Cool. All right. Next question here is what naturals or what natural things can I take for high blood pressure? I was prescribed Atenolol and Metropolol. They both zap the life out of me.
Yeah. So here's the good thing. If they zap the life out of you, good. Let me explain. That means you don't really have a heart problem. You got what's going on in your life problem. And it means you can fix it. That those are all the other things around it, because that's taking your blood pressure down so low when your body needs higher blood pressure to keep up with you. So high blood pressure is really a response to try to keep up with either a nutrient deficiency or a state of your sympathetic nervous system being too wound up. And it also could be like a deficiency in your simple electrolytes. So if naturally, the first thing to do, let's watch the stimulants. Number one, more sleep. Number one for high blood pressure, peeps, is better sleep. So let's focus on that. And, important to remember that alcohol is not a sleep medicine. I say that joking because it comes at my office all the time, and my wine lovers, and they always say, man, I got the best sleep medicine around. Wine, whatever. But it doesn't keep sleep, and it does strip the body of some fundamental nutrients like magnesium and stuff like that. So first and foremost, if you've been diagnosed with a little high blood pressure, good news is that this is probably clinically one of the simplest things I think there is to fix. You have a lot of control over it. Your heart is a muscle. And if you think about it as a muscle, like how can I treat this muscle good? I got to give it a break every now and then. I got to let it slow down and recover. And therefore it can be good, strong, and robust. And then what we put into our body, if we don't have very many nutrients in our body, your body has to increase the blood pressure to increase the circulation. If you have over time put on more weight than your body really should have, then it has to increase circulation. So it has to increase the blood pressure. If you have stress. So there's a lot of simple ways, or not, let's not call it simple. There are identifiable ways that we can say, hey, a lot of these lifestyle stuff. When it comes to like the different supplements that we use, and I think we mentioned this just a couple of weeks ago, there's two primary ones. And these are literally just for the heart and vasodilation. So what I mean by that is, so when you have high blood pressure, you have vasoconstriction, what the pressure on the inside of the artery literally gets, your arteries are constricting. So there's more pressure, they're getting tighter. Something that's called Cataplex G or vitamin G vasodilates. It opens up and takes the pressure, your blood pressure drops. So there's one called Cataplex G, and you can dose up pretty good on that, meaning that you take like three times a day. Very safe, very gentle, even in the event that you're on a medication. Now, understand, and again, I'm not treating your blood pressure, right? So these are just if you wanted to get healthier and not necessarily have your body have the need to increase its blood pressure. Because right now, based on what you're giving us, this is for anyone that has blood pressure. This is not because of your genetics. It might be triggered by your or it might be available because of your genetics, but something you're doing is telling your heart that you have to increase the pressure that's going on to keep up with what you're doing. So look at some of the obvious things, alcohol, stimulants, caffeine, sugar. The problem with sugar is that it depletes the other nutrients. And then a real simple one, Karen, almost every heart case, whether they're arrhythmias, flutters, whatever you want to call them, high blood pressure, will involve some level of an imbalance in electrolytes. And one of the best things we can use for that is something called Easy Mag. And I think we've discussed that a couple of times here. It's a soil-based magnesium, got some other, natural electrolytes in there. And those electrolytes are sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, magnesium. Those 5 are the kind of the primaries. Another simple one that people often forget or are afraid to use is sea salt. Himalayan sea salt has about 90 plus minerals in it. And those minerals help balance out the body naturally here. So Cataplex G, a little something else called Cardio Plus. I know my dogs are doing their thing in the back here. Cardio Plus is another one I use in almost all my heart cases. And again, it's really just support, to help create a healthier environment for the heart and the heart muscle itself. So, and again, if that individual who asked the question wants to dive a little bit deeper, they can, feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat with you. Maybe there's more direction you might need, but those are some good starting points right there. And again, I'll tell you that I really think that, and this is one of the things that always makes me bang my head against the wall with heart disease being the leading cause of death in our country, that blood pressure is where it starts. That's the beginning part of heart disease. Like then it just kind of ripples from there. Yet, to me, it's one of the simplest things to fix. Like hormone balancing, fixing a gut, those are a little more challenging.
Yeah, for sure. And if somebody does want to work with you, do they have to be local? Where are you? How do they get in touch?
Real simple. If you would just put like an email or phone number or both in the notes here, they just reach out, and then we do this. We do a Zoom, and same thing. Like they need labs, we can send labs. Like if they want to do a cardiometabolic panel, we can do all of those things. We can send via mail. It's so great now that we can literally, be literally sitting here in my home office and reach out and be able to serve people, out west, across country, or in Australia for that matter.
Yeah, awesome. Love it so much. Okay, cool. Let's do the next question. Is the dosing on the bottles for Drennaman enough to get results?
All right. That specific 2-bottle, all right, Drennaman, which is a product that we use with standard process. If people aren't familiar with it, one of my favorites, something I took just a little while ago. It's an adrenal product. So Drennaman is like the multivitamin / constant repair for the adrenal gland. So it's a combination of like a whole food multivitamin, like lots of vitamin C in there, but it also has a little bit of the desiccated material in there and the protomorphogen. So it's literally an amazing product for just full out adrenal support. That product by itself, they're small little pills, and I think that it says 3 on the bottle. Often the verbiage on the bottle will be 3 with each meal, which is a little vicarious, right? Because what if you only eat 1 meal a day? So you're only taking 3, which brings up a great point here. So the answer is no. Typically, a standard maintenance protocol for Drennaman is about 6 a day. And of course, if the person's much larger, then we might increase that dose. But here's such an important thing. So for everyone out there that's taking any supplements, kind of listen close on this. One of the biggest challenges that shows up in like my office and a lot of other practitioner offices when it comes to getting clinical results using, whole food supplements and herbs and all that stuff is dosing. Dosing's like a legit mishap that happens. Most of the time, Karen, I would say that people are not dosing enough, meaning they're so, and it goes like this. And it's just my my strategy, one of the things I've come up after 25 years of practice, that I think of three things when I think about dosing. I think of the diet that the individual has. I think of the disease, if there is dis-ease within the body. High blood pressure is dis-ease, a dysfunction within the body. What am I up against there? And how intense is that? What's the whole history? And that's where having a relationship with your doctor and in them helping you with the protocol can be very, like, much more important than we think. That's the part that's why I feel like that's where like we make our money, like that relationship that we have and helping these very specific things, but it's diet, disease, and then also deficiencies. Okay. And this is often like, so if I have someone in my office that is a 45-year-old female and they've been a vegetarian for 10 years and don't really have a really good diet, I know there's massive deficiencies there. So my dosing to get this individual to bridge that gap has to be significantly different than if I'm just trying to maintain something. Yeah. So oftentimes the dosing on a bottle is not for like clinical rehab or clinical fixing. It's just maintenance. So for everyone, if you're just following, especially with standard process, very, very, very conservative dosing that's on their bottles. So if you happen to office and listen, no charge for us. We know that this is, a thing out there. And so we like when people in our office, Karen, we like my crew will literally write on top of the bottles, 3 twice a day or whatever. We have kind of little 3/3. That means 3 twice a day. You could call and be like, hey, I'm taking adrenal desiccator. What's my dosing supposed to be? And they're so smart at this point. They know what the dosing typically is supposed to be. If they don't know it, they'll ask me. If we need more information, we will ask for that information. But dosing is a big reason people don't get results. I can't tell you how many times someone will come in. I'll be like, okay, so I'm making this up a little bit, but yeah, so I'm going to recommend turmeric for you. Be like, oh, I'm already using turmeric. How much are you using? Well, I take 1 a day. You've got inflammation in every part of your body, and you're 215 pounds or whatever it may be. And one little tablet of turmeric's not going to do it. You've got stress because you're going through a divorce. Your kids are crazy. We've been in a pandemic for 1.5 years. One pill of ashwagandha, not going to do it. So I'm joking, but I'm not. People will be like, I tried that. It didn't work. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So we want to use these supplements as the opportunity to help us balance out our diet, our disease, and or our deficiencies. And, and then the better that we can kind of really dial in that. I'll give you one example that I have no idea what it says in the bottle. There's a product we use called AF Beta Food. Okay. AF Beta Food has saved me more gallbladders. Literally, like, this is the gallbladder saver. This is the one that keeps people from getting the gallbladder taken out. It's a beet product. But I'll typically dose that minimum of 9 a day, but sometimes 15, 18, 20 a day. And wow. Things out the bio, it's just a beet product, but often it's because it's up against time. They'll go to a doctor, they'll get an ultrasound, the gallbladder will be there, oh, your gallbladder's stuck. This is why you're having gut pain. You got to get the sucker taken out. And I've usually got less than 30 days to help somebody. And it's a product. I know there's no side effects or anything like that. So in the past, like, I would be real conservative thinking that, well, they won't take that many. But that's why the disease, the disharmony in the body, the deficiency and or the diet plays such a role. So in those scenarios, when I got 30 days, we're going after it. And the dosing, if I go conservative, they're going to lose the gallbladder. Like, you know what I mean? So if I go, oh, just take 2 a day. I don't want you to be inconvenienced. I don't want you to think that is too much or anything like that. So that we're using these whole food supplements and herbs as tools. So, I know I went far off just asking about the dosing for Drennaman, but dosing is a really important part. If you guys, anyone listening tonight, if you have questions, reach out to my staff. They are brilliant. The dosing matters big time and how you're going to get results from everything.
No, I think it's an awesome conversation to have, because a lot of people will say, I've tried that. I've tried that. I've tried that. And even, like when you were talking about the Stealth protocol as like a 90-day protocol, I feel like people, one, don't take enough, but they're also like, oh yeah, I tried that for like a month. And I've been, slowly getting this disease over 20 years, but in a month, it didn't like completely reverse and 100% get better. And so, now I've already tried that. Whereas some of these things can take a little bit longer. And as you're saying, a little bit higher dose.
Yeah, a great example is blood pressure. Our blood has gone up and down, but for it to go up and stay up, a decade of problems. That's more realistic. And I think if the person that get diagnosed with high blood pressure heard that for a moment, they go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, so this is probably a lifestyle thing versus what I did last week. There might have been a trigger last week, but not to get your heart out of rhythm and all of a sudden have, super high blood pressure.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right, let's go on to the next question here. What causes excessive sweating at night, and what can a person do to fix it?
Okay, excessive sweating at night. I'm gonna, in this I saw this question come through, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rule out hormones for a moment. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna say this is not like night sweats, like hormonal, like hot flashes. We're going to go into excessive sweating, which is a little bit different. That's, I want to think of like little excessive sweating versus like a hot flash at night. So that, and I know this came from a male, but it'll apply to both men and female. So there's a couple of reasons we can do this. One, this often has to do with something called your vagal tone. We have a nerve. It's the longest nerve in the human body. It's pretty cool. Well, it's the longest cranial nerve that we have. And it travels really from our brainstem, which is considered cranial nerve number 10. And it drops down to the center of our body, down just below our sternum. And that nerve, that called the vagus nerve, sets the tone. It literally communicates with it's the brain-body connection, that nerve right there. And really its job is to set parasympathetic tone. Excessive sweating comes from part of your sweat glands being stuck in sympathetic dominance, like in this sympathetic state. Doesn't mean every facility of the body is going to be there, but it means that part of it, the skin, the sweat, the dermal glands, all that stuff, they are stuck in this sympathetic dominance. The vagus nerve is the one that regulates our gut-brain connection, all of this. That is the one that kind of calms, that's the parasympathetic activity. A lot of times when we're like in acupuncture, that's, especially people may lie on their back and some, like the practitioner might do something right down the middle. Oftentimes we're doing things to help kind of calm down the vagus nerve and just kind of create a nice state. Well, that's number one. So some of the ways you can help your vagus nerve. One, we need minerals, which is interesting because when we're excessively sweating, we're dumping a tremendous amount of our minerals. I've had even people say to me, their sheets will have a white ring where they sweat. Okay. That white ring where the sweat is, that's the calcium coming out of the body. That's one of those minerals. That's an electrolyte that's coming out of the body. So we got to replace those minerals. So we need things. There's a couple great, probably the best product there would just be something called MinTran. That is a yin-based mineral that helps your body shift into parasympathetic activity. There's two other things that are kind of important here too. So that vagal tone, huge, and it kind of can trigger into the other one, which is anxiety. No doubt about it. And some people, oddly enough, some people can literally be in an anxious state and go to bed. I know that kind of seems like it can't happen, but it absolutely can happen. And the body literally gets triggered, goes through that, and literally they wake up soaking wet. And that's the body getting kind of like it's just being triggered. There's another, and same thing, anything that I mentioned that can help create the vagus nerve. And I'm going to mention a couple of supplements in just a moment here that are really good, and one herb in particular. The third thing is really in this category is I never want to rule out, especially if that excessive sweating. When I say excessive sweat, I don't mean just like one time, but like for a period, like a week straight. Then that's really what we're looking at, these different things. The other one is parasites. So parasites seem like they can things. So parasites are nocturnal. Remember, they initially may be in your bloodstream. They get out of the bloodstream. They go hide in an organ. And then that, constant battle that your body's going through, they come out at night and the body starts to sweat and everything. So that's real as well. So it can be from parasites and never have any other symptoms other than that night sweating. So let me back up just a moment. There's one other thing that can contribute. I see it less and less. Well, it's not as frequent, It could be like a liver disease type situation. The liver is involved with all of this sweating, but it's not typically because of the liver, but it can have some liver issues here, especially if you find it. The more I drink, the more I sweat at night, if there's any correlation here. So I'll give you a couple of things here. One, if you're excessive sweater or someone happens to be sleeping next to you in an excessive sweater, one thing you can do without taking any supplements, do celery juice every single morning for 30 days straight. Okay. Because that's also, you're going to get some electrolytes back in there. It's going to help balance out some of the bodily functions, especially first thing in the morning after you sweat all day, and it'll set the stage for the body to just be a little more balanced. And helping flush out the liver, absolutely phenomenal. The number one herb for this, Karen, for excessive sweating is sage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sage.
Yeah, sage. So I have it in two different ways I can do it. One is a liquid version. And then I would have the person take this, is take about 15 mLs. So we have these little shot glasses. It'd be a pretty hearty shot, 15 mLs. And then you can put like twice as much water in there, and you do it somewhere about an hour or two before bed, roughly on an empty stomach. Phenomenal. And that's if this excessive sweating is taking place at night. If you have this, you're just an excessive sweater, you can use sage as well. And you start to spread it out through the course of the day. I have it in a liquid version. The other version I have it in is something, and this might be super good too, for anyone that has, especially the sweating at night, and it's called Wild Yam Complex.
Okay.
Yam is typically something you're going to hear me talk about when I talk about postmenopausal women, but this could be for guys as well, because it has wild yam, it has black cohosh, it has sage in there. You would probably need about, I forget the exact milligrams in there, but probably gonna need about 2 to 3 before bed. And if nothing else, even if this didn't help with the sleep, with the sweating, sleep like a baby. Super harmonizing, super calming for the mind and the body. It'd be worthy of try. Whatever program, whatever you're gonna do here, do it for at least 30 days. There's another one for the excessive sweating. If you're losing a lot of bodily fluids, there's one specifically that we use called A-C Carbamide. This is going to be even better for people that they break a sweat quick. Like say I'm in hot yoga, maybe it takes me 15, 20 minutes to warm up and I start breaking a sweat, and then the floodgates are on. These individuals, the floodgates go on when they literally get out of their car. Like any movement, floodgates go on. When they sweat, dripping, like, you know what I mean? Like a little bit, it's excessive. That's why they call it excessive sweating. A-C Carbamide is phenomenal for that. And what that's going to do is help you create a little bit more balance between your extracellular fluid and your intercellular fluid. So we don't want to dehydrate, but we want to be able to hold on to some of those fluids as well and get rid of the excess. So A-C Carbamide, same thing. Dosing here is important. About 9 a day, three times a day. So kind of important there. And then last but not least, if anything that we've talked about, where we talk about electrolytes, sea salt, very important for these individuals. Most likely there's an imbalance in people that have excessive sweating in something that's called the sodium potassium pump. It's out of balance and it's kicking things out. The pump is just kicking things out. We create a pretty massive deficiency. Usually it's in the potassium. So we have something called organically bound minerals, or you can really, the best way to get potassium is just eat green food, and lots of it. Like lots of green food. That's really the best way, because even supplementing, you got to supplement pretty high to get potassium.
Okay, awesome. And so a couple of those, I put the link in, but things like sage, the liquid, just contact your office.
Yeah, they can contact the office, or again, if you guys are listening tonight, we can give you what's called the patient direct code. So, which is kind of important. It's really cool. If there's certain things that, especially the herbs that MediHerb has to stand a process, that they don't let us just like give anyone without some kind of contact. They're in Australia, especially, a lot of the herbs are considered medicinal. And these are some of the strongest herbs in the world. So you have to kind of go through a practitioner. But Karen, if they reach out and just type in, send us an email and says that, Dr. Bart show something, we'll give you that patient direct code. So then you'll have an access to the full line, which is pretty cool. So then you'll be able to, get the things like kava and sage and all these other different herbs that are a little bit more medicinal because of their strength.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'll put the contact details in the chat here.
Good.
Okay. Next question. What are monoclonal antibodies and are they safe?
Monoclonal antibodies. We talked about this a little bit last week. I'm glad this came up again because I didn't really answer. I think someone actually asked me this last week. And I think just in the conversation, I just kind of like blew through it.
Yeah, we kind of went through it a little bit, but let's dive in a little bit more.
Monoclonal antibodies are really popular, especially here in the state of Florida, over here in the States. Absolutely. They are essentially, they're antibodies that are made in order. There's actually two different antibodies that are made that provoke a white blood cell response to the spike protein. Okay. So that's really cool. So you can go get two separate shots. Right? They might even divide them into 4. Ideal world, it's an IV, but what's happening here in Florida, Karen, they're free. Like literally they're free. And this is for COVID, folks. This is the monoclonal antibodies are for COVID. And so far they're safe. I've only seen good things. I have not seen a single adverse reaction. I haven't had to use them myself. But nonetheless, we're sending everyone. I want to say a couple of things about this. So they are antibodies that you are given to you. So you're kind of like injecting in antibodies that go directly after the spike protein, but no effect from it. It's not a messenger RNA. It's an antibody. And it's derived from 2 different types of antibody sources that I don't even think I know how to pronounce their names. Anyways, IV is kind of been that was the original kind of methodology of getting into the body, but it's not very realistic to go and sit in a doctor's office for an hour at a time, especially when they're free. And anyone here in this wonderful state of Florida can get them, which is absolutely awesome because people through this thing, it's absolutely awesome. If you're local, the Fort Walton Fairgrounds and the Panama City Fairgrounds is not even a hospital. You show up with or without an appointment, you will get your monoclonal antibodies. Here's the kicker here, folks. Listen, do not wait to see if you need them. If you have COVID, if you've been exposed, but you haven't tested and you're kind of feeling it, go get them. Here's the kicker. What they do is they literally inhibit the infection from spreading. They keep your viral load down, AKA you live to sing another day. So important. The thing I see right now is people like, I'm going to wait and see. No, there's no reason to wait and see. Take 20 minutes, take an hour out of your life, go down, get in line. They're free because we have an awesome governor here in our state, right? That pushes the envelope a little bit, love them or hate them. That protocol right there and making sure that everyone in our state has access to it is a total power move. It is a total leadership move. So I'm a huge advocate of, I'm not a drug guy. It's not my like my platform to say this drug is better than this one, but I've seen only good results with it. So if people are getting safe and people are getting through this and it's helping us get back into normal, normal move and groove, I'm all for it. So hopefully that answers a little bit better. Yes.
And sorry, that is for so if you get COVID, you go and use these.
Yes, but here you don't have to have a positive test. Yes. Yeah. That, you know what I mean? Because I get it. You got to go get a positive test and it might not come back for a day or 2. And then next thing you know, you're 3, 5, 7 days deep into this. And you want this, the sooner the better. That's when you do it, when there's a possibility of increasing the viral load within the body. And of course, you're still doing your vitamin C, your zinc to inhibit viral load, your vitamin D to protect your body, make sure your hormones are rich. You're doing all those things. Monoclonal antibodies, I'd even throw in there, haven't used it yet, but only see good results of the ivermectin. And man, we're winning. And that is why I'm so confident that, man, the states that buck up and the people that want health, literally so they can get back to living their lives out loud and, enjoying family and friends and not be afraid of other people, knowing we had to have strategies to level up. So we're 18 months into this and it's time for us to start getting excited. The time has helped us. We figured some things out and we still have to be healthier as a nation. There's no doubt about that. And people are doing it and some aren't and some are. I heard some really not so great statistics about how much weight our country gained this past year. Yeah, Scar.
Yeah, I'm sure our country's the same.
Yeah, it was kind of like, whoa, like wowza. But nonetheless, super excited about the fact that there are a lot of strategies. And listen, because I care and love for everyone too. I've got, family members that, are a little bit older. I'm not saying they're not healthy, but they're healthy, but they're a little older, and they don't, there's just knowing that there's more strategies available for everyone. Love it.
Yeah, totally. We've got a follow-up question here. What if I've already had the vaccine?
Yeah. So if you've already had the vaccine, your vaccine, well, you're roughly your vaccine, for the protection that we're assuming that you did have, you got about 6 months. So even if you've had the vaccine, you can get the monoclonal antibodies. Well, all right, that's your question. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, absolutely. Still, and it's probably going to do better because the vaccine itself was just stop the spike of that spike protein, the highest point of it. So you didn't get like absolutely annihilated, not necessarily to keep your viral load down. And that's what they're doing. So, I hate
you can have both. If you've got the vaccine, you can still use the monoclonal antibodies as a strategy if you get COVID.
Yes. And I'm excited about this because we have yet to see any side effects. And that is always a question that needs to be asked repetitively. And so, well, there's side effects. What about this? What about that? That's what we need to ask. We can't get censored for that. We need to be asking those questions.
Yes, totally. Excuse me. Follow up from that. Are natural antibodies better than antibodies from the vaccine?
Simple answer. The answer is yes, Karen. This is not rocket science. I know and it's a bummer, and that might like offend people. Be like, oh, am I smarter than all of those people out there? These professionals that are on the news and everything that's saying, well, we don't know. We do know. This isn't rocket science. When you're exposed to something, any virus, any bug, anything, whatever, you get exposed to the entire form of it. Let's just say that I'm going to hold my hand up, and let's just say that there's 5 fingers on this coronavirus. And when I get exposed to it, I get to see the whole playbook, all 5. I develop an immunity, a strategy for all 5 of these.
Yeah.
The team developed basically a strategy for one, the spike protein only. That's it. So natural immunity is 100%, not 100%. I'm not going to put a percentage on it. There are some studies right now. I didn't fact check them, but there's some studies claiming as much as low as twice as strong, as high as 27 times stronger. Natural. Wow. Here's the other cool thing. When someone gets on the, and hear me close, when those people, whoever those people are, get on the news station and be like, well, we don't know about the antibody. You know why they don't know? Because they don't want to know. The rest of us know. The rest of us know that natural antibodies have always been what makes humans superhumans. That is one of our stealth weapons. It is the unbelievable thing about humans that we know how to adapt and get stronger and move forward as long as we're living a decent lifestyle. So we know that the antibodies are strong. And here's really cool things. So my wife and I went and got tested. Her antibodies from a year ago are like what they need to be.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We're not sure how long. Yes, we do. Most people are getting tested that I see in my office have antibodies at least a year later. They've already told us that the vaccine people, if they're getting it, that they're only protected. And this is a little bit of a bummer because I have a lot of friends that have been vaccinated and don't know, and they have no way of really understanding when are they still protected, or when are they vulnerable. So that's why the booster thing came up. So they're saying right now that I guess they put it at about 6 months. You get your shot and you need one in 6 months, which means everybody, when the vaccines came out and the most vulnerable got the vaccines back in January, February, March.
They're ready for their booster now.
They already need the booster again. We've already, and now there's a Delta variant. It's a little confusing. But with all that confusion, folks, no matter which route you take, monoclonal antibodies, vitamin C, D, and zinc, and then it's a little ivermectin, stay home, rest. Did I say that right? Stay home and rest. Breaking that rule to be like, no, I was feeling a little better, so I pushed it. No. Hey, listen.
From experience, Dr. Bart?
Heck yeah. I know, good, healthy people that, got their butt kicked by this, they survived, of course, but it wasn't fun. That's what I should say. Like they didn't have any fun when they had to fend it off. And they might have been tired for weeks at a time. So, and listen, if that's the price we have to pay to get us in line, here's what I do know. The majority of people that got the vid and it beat them up a little bit, the majority of people I know are now doing more for their health than they ever have.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got another follow-on question from that. We've kind of answered some of this, but what do you do for COVID protection for your family and yourself?
So we covered kind of that, those protocols. We've talked about protocols, but there are some other things here, Karen, that I think is at least important to mention, because I think we still have to be smart, right? I'll share with you. So we're fortunate enough to have my wife's parents just down the road from us. And I love having them around. My wife and I are exposed to literally thousands of people all the time, like around people in one way or another. So inevitably, even if our antibodies wear off, we will constantly be exposed to different levels of and different viral loads, and we'll always, our immune systems are going to be just fine. So one of the strategies we have when we meet with our parents, 95% of the time we meet outside. And I think this is the fair strategy. And let me explain to why for everyone that's listening, and especially with family, because we all of a sudden think that it only applies to everyone else but family. Oh, I literally have family members and say, I'll say, well, what'd you guys do for so-and-so's birthday? Well, it was just family. We just had family over. Well, you got teenagers, you got people going to work, you got all these different things. So you guys want another layer of protection that they forgot to tell us about. Well, listen, we were talking about it, we said it out loud, but now it's come full circle where it's true and there's no more denying it's not bad information. Listen, the safest thing you can do is be outside. It's virtually at this point, hear me out. And people are going to be like, no, it's not true. They told us to wear masks outside. No, it's virtually impossible to get a virus outside. And that's because of the viral load. You cannot, when there's air moving around and wind and all that kind of stuff, or you're moving around, the viral loads are decreased. That is why here in the States, you guys probably have like soccer and rugby and stuff like that. But here in our States, this is college football. This is football season. Yeah. College football. And here in the South, college football, there's like crazy, and then there's crazy lost their shit stuff. And college football, and they'll pack here and they'll pack. And I'm from the Northeast, so college football was never this big, but it's fun just to watch, just how enthusiastic people are. Yeah. 70, 100,000 people packed in a stadium, singing, shouting, spitting on each other, hugging each other, high-fiving each other, all of the things we were told that we absolutely cannot do. In the event, because in the past we said, oh, these were super spreader events and all that kind of stuff. Gotcha. You're not slowing college football down. Like, it's just not happened. And there's no rise of the virus being spread, and the testing's not going up. The deaths are going up. So again, we let time kind of play its part here and just show and prove to us things like natural sunlight and getting outside are super healthy. So that's a big thing that I do at home, that we do at home. I'm very mindful for, making sure that, if I'm feeling a little bit run down, I kind of distract myself out of the family, and I keep my own distance. I think that's important for everyone. That's another great one. If you're not close to someone outside.
And that's one we always used to do, really, or that kind of just makes sense. Like, if I'm feeling unwell before COVID, there's other things that you didn't want to share with people that might be more vulnerable to them, right? Like, that used to be a thing that we did anyway.
Absolutely, 100%. So yeah, and so that's probably the biggest thing. Like, outdoor, especially with anyone I think might be a little bit vulnerable. And listen, I'll take it another step. So people that come into my office, it's like 90 degrees and humid out, right? Or maybe it's like 95 at times. But you'll notice when they come in my little office in the back of my, our clinic here, I have the window open.
Yeah.
Why do I do that? It's just so easy to decrease the possibility of anyone spreading anything. So yes, hot and it's humid, but I'll take the hot and humid, right? Over and just helping people be a little more comfortable and making sure there's moving air. And then I have this air purifier, ionized, and all this cool stuff. So I listen, and I think I'm sharing this because I don't want anyone thinking I'm just being a knucklehead. And and I don't think that there's a virus that goes around or anything like that. That is not my play here. I'm saying, you know what? I don't care if it's there because I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to have a strategy in the event that I get it. And I'm also going to level my own self up to have these really good strategies, physically, emotional, spiritually. So let's hopefully I answered the question again there. But yeah, I definitely, have things in play here. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And another kind of follow up from what we were talking about before, we've got a question here. If you take ivermectin when you have COVID, will it affect the antibody test?
No, ivermectin is really going to work as almost like an anti-inflammatory. We think of it that way. So it's not going to affect the antibody test. No, because that's no, they're going to be two different things here.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Let's move on to the next question here. What does bad breath mean and how do we fix it?
Oh, bad breath. Okay. Halitosis. That's the technical name for it.
Good.
There's a couple of things about bad breath. It's not uncommon that everyone will have a moment or two of bad breath. Ultimately, let's dive to the cause of especially chronic bad breath. Typically, it is some level of a candida, yeast, fungal overgrowth. And when we have those, we know what keeps those alive is sugar and carbohydrates.
Yeah.
That's usually at the root of it. What typically causes this, like what causes yeast, candida in those guys, is typically a round or two or many rounds of antibiotics. Yeah. So I see that. So, it's over the years, it took me a moment to really pay attention to like, and, and just put the pieces of the puzzle together and be like, they didn't have bad breath. And they said, well, I haven't changed my diet. And then I'm thinking, well, what else? We go through, we do a little digging and be like, oh, remember you had that cold ever since that cold. And they say, do you think it's still the bacteria? No. And yes, at the same time, it wasn't the bacteria from the cold, but the antibiotics killed off your good gut flora, your good bacteria, made room for the candida and yeast, and boom, it grows. That's one thing. So we want to be kind of mindful of that. What do we do? So everything from tongue scraping, phenomenal. Bitter foods, phenomenal. In fact, if someone has chronic bad breath, there is a supplement. It's a digestive enzyme. Although I'm always a fan of Zypan, the best one for this is something called Digest Forte. Okay. Digest Forte is a digestive enzyme that is all bitters. So it elicits those bitter receptors, super, super good in all those candida and fungal, yeast, all that good stuff. You also got to be mindful of too much protein. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So ultimately, I'll say this. If you or someone have bad breath, they have a lack of greens, specifically chlorophyll. Okay. So think of anything green, kale and cucumbers and green beans, everything that is green, arugula, bitter, of course, kale, bitter, of course. All of these, the chlorophyll is one of the absolute best things for someone that has bad breath. So we want to get greens. So we want to lean the diet strong into what I'd call a plant-based. You'll see a lot of people that are doing keto with bad breath, and there's partially because of the autophagy and the kill off. And sometimes when you're going through changes, you're doing a cleanse or something like that, you will get some kill off, and that's okay if it's temporary. If you see it coating up on your tongue, cleaning up your tongue, fantastic. We talked a couple of weeks ago about oil pulling. Yeah, fantastic. Killing off the bacteria. And that works real fast. If you got chronic bad breath, that'll work pretty good.
Okay, awesome.
Tough conversation to have someone, but if you have it with someone, they will appreciate it.
Yes, very true. Very true. All right, we're almost out of time here. I didn't miss one follow-up question from our last conversation here on Facebook. The question is, we are being forced as employees to get the vaccine. Even though I've had COVID and recovered, I'm thinking of getting the J&J one. Any thoughts?
Oh boy. So we definitely are ruling out Moderna.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's just based on the research that's going around through, some of the other countries a little farther ahead we are right now, but I think there's up to like 6 or 7 countries now that have tossed Moderna for different age groups, some all together. So
We've just brought it into Australia.
interesting. Yeah. So
We're just adding it to our list of vaccines. Yeah. Anyway.
Taking a beating. I don't know if there's any competition between the groups or not, like we should be asking those questions too. Like, if someone's getting beat up, like who's the most benefit this? And maybe it's Pfizer. I have no idea. So I don't know that one's better than the other. I've seen challenges with them all and I've seen no challenges with them all. So that's probably the most accurate way I can answer that. If you feel as though this is something that you must do, accept it as something that you're choosing to do. Don't say you have to get it. This is very important to understand that this is a choice and you may choose because it feels different when you say it that way. And it's really important. I hear so many people say, I had to get it because I want to travel. You didn't have to get it. You chose to get it because you want to travel. And it's okay to say it that way. But I also think it's important to do that. Otherwise, the next thing you know, we will lose so many freedoms. And because you're going to say, I had to. When you realize that this still comes down to choice. I do know people that literally have to put food on their table and they're choosing to get that vaccine and risking whatever it may be to put food on the table. So put it as a choice and then do everything we've talked about in this show. Everything about bodies clean as can be prior, make that you are loading up on turmeric and good fatty acids. You have good strong levels of vitamin C, D, and zinc. And then afterwards, make sure that you, same thing, like play it out, play strong, especially that next 30 days, super high levels of anything to help your body get rid of inflammation. The challenge is that hyper inflammatory response that's affecting some of the cell tissue that's especially creating in the lungs and stuff like that. So I don't have an answer one better than the other. I've seen it all with all. And just because some of the other countries are now taking Moderna off the plate, I would do that as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And you can go back and check one of our last episodes. We went through, like what you said, using the turmeric, cod liver oil, some of those strategies for if you are taking it. Awesome. All right. Well, we had so many great questions. Let's go into our last one, which is what is the one action that our listeners can take to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
The one action this time is to get excited. We've been sitting on the plate in the background, unexcited for way too long. And I had a great conversation with someone in the office today and they said, thanks. And I said, for what? So get me excited again. And I didn't even mean to get them excited. Yeah. I'm getting excited because I feel as though when fear wears away, man, it's like, oh, it just feels good. And I feel as though more people are becoming less fearful and it feels good. So get excited again. That would be the opposite of having fear in your life. So get excited, get excited. Know there's good strategies out there right now, and shit's going to happen. And stuff happens. And if you have a good strategy, we don't have to be afraid of it. And that's where we need to be right now to move ourselves forward. So get excited. That's it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in with us again this week. We'll be back same time, same place next week for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate everyone here every night, every time you guys keep showing up, keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. And of course, take deliberate action for our mind, our body, overall wellness. And y'all be awesome.